Snow whispered along the wall like ash. It slid from the ice in thin sheets and vanished into the night, swallowed by the black beneath. Jon Snow stood with his hands on the rough pine rail and tried to feel anything that was wholly his. Cold, fear, anger, hope. Something not tangled up in oaths and ghosts and the memory of knives. Ghost pressed against his leg, a silent weight, warm through fur and muscle. The direwolf's breath came white, steady, as if the beast had never known death or betrayal. Jon envied him that. Some nights Jon still woke thinking he was falling, thinking the yard below would rise to meet him, thinking the last sight he'd ever have would be the stars turning lazy circles as he bled out. "There is a darkness east of here," Melisandre said behind him. He heard her before he saw her. He always did. The Red Woman did not walk like other people. She seemed to slide from one patch of shadow to another as if the night made way for her. When Jon turned, the torchlight caught the copper in her hair and made it look like a wound. Her ruby pulsed at her throat, too bright in the bitter air. "There is darkness everywhere," Jon said. His voice sounded older than he felt. "Beyond the wall, in the king's courts, in men's hearts. This one is older." Melisandre's eyes held his, unblinking. "It has no heart at all." Ghost's ears angled forward. Not toward her voice, but toward the east, the way a hound might hear a distant horn no man could. Jon felt it then, a faint tightening in his chest, as if some invisible hand had pinched a thread tied to his ribs and given it a gentle tug. "You dream," Melisandre went on. "You do not speak of it, but you dream. You see ice and you see fire. You see a wolf running under a sky of dying stars." Jon's fingers dug into the rail. "I see the wall falling. I see dead men walking. That is no gift. That is dread." "It is a warning," she said, "and a summons." Jon had heard her tell tales of far lands, of Asshai-by-the-Shadow where the sun was a rumor and shadows moved like living things. Sailors spoke of it with the same tone they used for krakens and drowned gods, half laughter, half prayer. Jon had always dismissed those stories as the sort of nonsense men used to make their drink feel stronger. Melisandre did not dismiss anything. She took every whisper and made it a rope, then wrapped it around your throat until you could not ignore it. "I have seen an egg," she said softly, and the words made the air feel thinner. "Not in a merchant's palm, not painted on a silken banner, in the flames, a stone that is not stone, sleeping life, wrapped in night." Jon's mouth tasted of iron. "Dragons are dead. Dragons are fire made flesh," Melisandre replied. "Fire does not die, it only waits." Ghost shifted, and Jon felt his own heart answer the wolf's movement like a mirror. It frightened him more than her words. He could face lies. He could face visions. But this sense of something out there that had already noticed him made his skin prickle beneath his leathers. "You want me to chase shadows," Jon said. "I want you to steal hope," she corrected, "before another steals ruin." Jon gave a short, humorless laugh. "And how would I do that? Walk to the ends of the world with a wolf at my heel." Melisandre's gaze slid to Ghost, and for the first time Jon saw uncertainty touch her face like a passing cloud. "Not a wolf," she whispered, as if correcting herself. "Not only." When Jon looked down, Ghost was staring east with a stillness that was not calm, but command. The direwolf's tail did not move. His red eyes did not blink. He looked like a sentinel carved from snow and blood. Jon had been many things. Bastard, brother, corpse, commander. He had never been a thief, not like this. Yet the tug in his chest tightened again, and with it came a memory that wasn't a memory. Black stones slick with rain, a river like ink, and something round and heavy that made the world hold its breath. Jon turned his face into the wind and let it bite him. "Tell me what you saw," he said at last. "All of it." Melisandre smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "I saw you take it," she said. "And I saw your wolf claim it first." By dawn the decision had hardened like ice. Jon told himself it was duty. He told himself it was strategy. He told himself it was merely another road to walk because standing still at Castle Black felt like waiting to be buried. The yard was a churn of boots and breath. Men moved with that winter haste that was not true speed, only the fear of what might happen if you stopped. Torches fought the wind and lost in little bursts of smoke. Ed Tollett was cursing a frozen bucket with the bleak persistence of a man who believed the world had been built to mock him personally. Davos Seaworth found Jon near the armory, his cloak thrown over one shoulder, his fingers red from cold. The Onion Knight's beard had more white in it these days, though whether that was age or frost Jon could not say. "You've got that look," Davos said, and shook his head as if already weary. "The look of a man about to do something that will make everyone else's lives harder." Jon nearly smiled. "That's been most of my life." Davos's eyes flicked toward Ghost, who stood close enough that Jon could feel the heat of him. The direwolf's gaze was fixed on nothing visible, or perhaps on everything. "I've sailed with men who claimed they'd seen mermaids," Davos said. "I've watched lords burn for prophecies. I've seen kings chase crowns and find graves instead. Tell me you're not listening to her." Jon did not deny it. Denying it would be a lie, and Davos had always had a sailor's nose for lies. "Melisandre says there's something east," Jon said. "Something that could matter. She always says something—" Davos snapped, then softened. "Forgive me. I know what she did for you. I know what you are because of her. But that doesn't make her safe. It doesn't make her wrong either," Jon said. Tormund Giantsbane wandered closer, broad as a bear in his furs. His beard was crusted with snow, his cheeks raw. He looked from Jon to Davos and grunted. "You're leaving," he said, not a question. "I smell it, like a man deciding to step off a cliff because he thinks there's a path in the air." Jon held his gaze. "Not leaving the fight." Tormund bared his teeth in something that was almost a smile. "All fights are leaving one thing for another. That's what a fight is." He glanced at Ghost. "The big white bastard will come. He'll bite anyone who says no. That helps." Ed arrived with a bundle of straps and a face like a man attending his own execution. "If you're going off to find a dragon," he said, "I'd like to state for the record that I was against it. I was also against being born, but no one asked me about that either." Jon took the straps from him. "You won't be coming." Ed looked offended. "And miss my chance to die in some exotic fashion? I might have been killed by a giant. I might have been eaten by a bear. Now you tell me I'm going to be denied being roasted by a dragon in a land no one can pronounce." "You're needed here," Jon said. "At the wall." Ed's eyes went to the ice looming above them. "That's a comforting thought." Davos stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Where do you think you're going?" Jon had rehearsed the answer in his head all night, and it still felt mad on his tongue. "Eastwatch, then Braavos. And farther if I can." Davos stared as if Jon had said he intended to swim there. "Braavos? Why Braavos?" "Ships," Jon said simply. "And secrets. Men who trade in both." "Secrets are what got you killed," Davos said. Jon felt that old ache, the remembered bite of steel. "Then I'll be careful who I trust." Davos's jaw worked. He looked at Ghost again, then back at Jon, and something resigned settled over him. "You're not asking permission," he said. "No," Jon admitted. Davos exhaled through his nose, a long, slow breath. "Then you'll need a sailor," he said. "Someone to keep you from buying a ship and sailing it straight into the Sunset Sea by mistake." Jon blinked. "You can't leave Stannis." Davos's mouth twisted, more pain than smile. "Stannis Baratheon left me plenty of times. And if this is about saving the realm, then it's his war too, whether he likes it or not." He rubbed his hands together, then glanced at the sky. "Besides, I've a talent for ending up in the wrong place at the right time." Jon looked at him, at the lines etched by salt and fire, and felt something unfamiliar, gratitude without guilt. "Then come," Jon said quietly. "But if we go small. Quiet." Tormund snorted. "Quiet is not a word I know." "You're staying," Jon said, and Tormund's face soured. "What, you think I can't handle a boat?" "I think you'd eat the captain," Jon said, and Ed muttered something about that being the best-case scenario. Ghost pressed his head against Jon's thigh as if sealing the decision. Jon laid a hand on the wolf's skull and felt the calm power there, the steadiness that had never left him even when Jon had. "All right," Davos said. "Eastwatch first, and then we'll see what kind of fool's road you've chosen." Jon looked east, toward seas he'd never seen and lands that might not exist. The tug in his chest tightened again, and this time it felt almost like anticipation. Eastwatch smelled of tar and fish and iron, and the air tasted different there. Less clean than at Castle Black, heavier with salt and rot. The wall loomed to the west like a pale cliff, but the sea spread eastward without end, a black plain broken by the slap of waves against timber. Men stared as Jon and Davos crossed the docks. They stared at Jon because he was Jon Snow. Lord Commander turned something else, dead man walking. They stared at Ghost because Ghost was the sort of creature men only believed in until one was standing beside them. The direwolf's paws made no sound on the wet planks. His eyes did, though. Red eyes that made hardened sailors swallow. The Braavosi ship sat at anchor like a sleek blade. Its hull was dark and clean, the sort of ship that had never scraped itself on a rock because its captain had never let it. The sails were furled, but Jon could see their color. Deep purple, like bruised flesh. A figurehead shaped like a masked woman jutted from the prow. The captain met them at the gangplank. He was lean, wrapped in layers of cloth, his face hidden behind a half-mask of lacquered black. Only his mouth was visible, thin-lipped and amused. "I am Captain Morito No," he said in accented common tongue. His eyes flicked to Ghost, and though Jon could not see them clearly behind the mask's narrow slits, he felt their calculation. "I was told to expect a wolf and a dead man." Davos bristled. "He's alive. Alive enough," Morito said, as if that were a small distinction. "Braavos is full of men who have died and continued anyway." Jon studied him. "You were told," Jon repeated. Morito bowed slightly. "Information is a commodity. A woman in white silk bought mine with a ruby the size of a quail's egg. Melisandre." Jon felt irritation flare, sharp as the cold. She had arranged this without him. Of course she had. She did not move pieces one by one. She moved whole boards. Davos leaned close. "I don't like it," he muttered. Jon didn't either, but the tug in his chest had become a steady pull now, like a rope drawn taut. He stepped onto the gangplank. Ghost followed without hesitation. The planks creaked beneath the direwolf's weight, and sailors edged away as if giving space to a king. Morito's mouth twitched. "Your animal may stay," he said, "if it does not eat my crew." "He won't," Jon lied or hoped. A boy no older than 15 hurried forward with a lantern, eyes wide. Ghost's gaze slid to him and the boy froze. Jon saw the moment the child's courage failed, and he placed himself between wolf and boy with practiced ease. "Ghost," Jon murmured, and the direwolf's ears tilted, acknowledging. The boy fled. Morito watched that with interest. "He listens," the captain said. "That is uncommon." Jon answered with silence. The ship's deck was slick with salt spray. Ropes coiled like sleeping snakes. Men moved with the efficiency of those who had spent their lives on water and trusted would more than earth. Jon felt out of place, a man built for snow and stone in a world of rolling black. In the captain's cabin, a map lay spread across a table. It showed the narrow sea, the free cities, the long curve down past the stepstones. It did not show Asshai. It did not show the Shadowlands. The edge of the parchment might as well have been the edge of the world. Morito poured something dark into cups and offered one to Jon. Jon did not take it. Davos did, sniffed, and grimaced. "We sail to Braavos," Morito said. "From there, if you pay, we sail farther. Qarth, Volantis, Slaver's Bay if you wish to invite chains and knives. Past the Jade Sea." He paused, as if tasting the words. "Asshai is not a port men speak of lightly." "I'm not asking you to speak," Jon said. "Only to sail." Morito's laughter was soft. "Sailing is speaking." Every wave tells you something. Every wind whispers a price. He leaned forward. Tell me yours, Crow. Jon looked at the map at the blank edge beyond. He thought of the Night's Watch men at Castle Black, of the wildlings huddled under the wall, of the dead things walking in the snow. He thought of Melisandre's words. Steal hope before another steals ruin. My price is survival, Jon said. Morito nodded slowly. Then you will pay dearly, he said. That night the ship pulled away from Eastwatch. Jon stood at the stern as the wall receded into darkness, a pale line under the stars. He should have felt guilt. He should have felt fear. Instead he felt ghosts settle beside him, and with that warm weight came the certainty that something was already waiting. Something that had been waiting a very long time. Braavos rose from the fog like a dream someone had half forgotten. The Titan stood guard at the harbor mouth, a colossal stone man with one arm raised, as if warning the sea itself to keep its distance. Its eyes were dark hollows, but Jon felt them watching anyway. They slipped beneath it with the tide. The harbor was crowded with ships, their masts like a forest of bare trees. Bells tolled somewhere far off. The air smelled of brine and spices and smoke from 1,000 cooking fires. Jon had never seen a city like this. So crowded it seemed to breathe in waves. So alive it made Castle Black feel like a grave. Captain Morito took them ashore at night. Braavos is kinder when it cannot see you clearly, he said, and led them through narrow streets where lanterns swung over canals. Men in masks passed like ghosts. Women in velvet laughed behind lace. Beggars watched from doorways with eyes like knives. Ghosts drew attention no matter how dark the hour. Jon kept him close, hand resting on the direwolf's neck, feeling the steady pulse beneath the fur. People moved aside as if the wolf carried plague. Jon didn't mind. Space was a gift. They reached a small house near a canal where the water was black and still. A woman waited inside, veiled in pale silk. She smelled of incense and cold stone. When she lifted the veil, her face was older than Jon expected, lined and tired, but her eyes were sharp. You are late, she said to Morito in Braavosi. Then she looked at Jon. Her common tongue was precise. Jon Snow. Jon's hand tightened on Ghost. Who are you? A merchant, she said, and smiled as if that were a joke. A listener, a buyer of whispers. She turned her gaze on Ghost. And you are the one I was told to watch. Ghost's ears pricked. He did not growl. He simply stared, and the woman's smile faltered for a heartbeat before she mastered it. Davos shifted uneasily. We didn't come to be watched, he said. No, the woman agreed. You came to steal. She laid a small object on the table. A shard of black glass, shaped like a candle, smooth as oil. Jon had heard of such things in old tales. Glass candles that could burn without flame, that could carry sight across leagues and years. He had never believed them. The shard did not glow, but it seemed to drink the lamplight around it, making the room dimmer. It was lit once, the woman said quietly, when dragons woke in the world again. Jon's throat tightened. Where did you get that? A man died owing me a debt, she said. He paid in secrets. Her eyes flicked to Davos. The East stirs. Asshai stirs. There are men with black tongues and hands stained with red who have begun to hunt old things. They believe the world is ending. They may be right. Jon's chest tugged harder now. It was not pain. It was direction. The woman leaned forward. The Shadowlands are not a place you go and return unchanged, she said. Men lose pieces of themselves there. Sometimes they lose all of themselves. I've lost enough, Jon said. Have you? She asked softly. Or have you only misplaced it? Jon had no answer. He remembered the emptiness after death, the strange distance between him and his own skin. He remembered the way Ghost had felt like a doorway in his mind, always ajar. The woman reached beneath the table and drew out a rolled parchment. She unrolled it, revealing a map. Older, hand-drawn, marked with ink that had browned with age. It showed coastlines and seas Jon did not recognize. It showed the Jade Sea. It showed Asshai. Beyond it, a smear of darkness, as if the mapmaker's hand had trembled. "Here," she said, tapping the edge of the darkness. "There are places where black stone stands in shapes no man built. There are caves where the air tastes of metal. There are pits where shadows move without light." Her finger moved to a small symbol, an oval ringed in marks, a temple market where certain items change hands. Davos's voice was rough. "Dragons." "Not dragons," the woman said. "Eggs, stones, sleeping fire." Her gaze locked on Jon. "One in particular has been taken from where it should never have been taken. It does not belong to the dragon lords of old. It does not belong to any king. It belongs to something that has never ruled, because it has never been born." Jon felt ghost tense. The direwolf's hackles rose, but not with aggression, with focus, like a hunter scenting prey. "And why tell us?" Jon demanded. "Why help?" The woman's eyes softened, and for a moment she looked simply tired. "Because if the dead things in your snowlands cross your wall, Braavos will die too," she said. "We have canals, not castles. We have masks, not armies. I would rather wager on a bastard and his wolf than wait for death to knock politely." She pushed the map toward him. "Captain Morito will take you as far as Qarth," she said. "From there you will need other paths. There are always other paths if you have coin or blood." Jon took the map. The parchment felt warm, though the room was cold. Or perhaps that was his imagination. As they left, Ghost paused at the doorway and looked back at the black glass shard on the table. Jon swore he saw it pulse faintly, like a heart trying to remember how to beat. South of Braavos, the seas grew meaner. The winds turned fickle, shifting without warning, and Captain Morito's crew moved with the tense readiness of men expecting betrayal from the sky itself. Jon learned quickly that a ship was a living thing. It groaned and shuddered beneath his feet, its bones protesting every wave. He found himself listening to it the way he listened to Ghost, half instinct, half fear. Davos moved through the chaos like a man returning to an old life, his hands sure on ropes, his voice sharp with orders in a tongue Jon did not know. Ghost hated the sea. He did not whine or cower. He simply stood at the highest point he could claim and stared at the horizon as if daring it to show itself. When storms rolled in, the direwolf dug his claws into the deck and refused to budge, water streaming off his fur like melted snow. In the nights, Jon dreamed of ice cracking. He dreamed of a wall breaking like glass. He dreamed of a river as black as pitch and a city without children. And always, he dreamed of something round and heavy that sat in darkness, waiting. Once, in the heart of a storm, he woke on the deck without remembering rising from his bunk. Rain hammered down in sheets. Lightning tore the sky open, white and violent. Men shouted, their voices ripped away by wind. Jon stood near the rail, hands gripping wet wood, and Ghost pressed against him, steady as stone. For a moment Jon's mind slipped, not fully, not like the deep wargfalls he'd known in sleep, but like a foot skidding on ice. He saw through Ghost's eyes, the world a sharp palette of scent and motion, fierce sweat and salt and the electric bite of lightning. He saw the men as bright, frantic shapes. He saw the sea as a monstrous thing, hungry and endless. And then, beneath all that, he smelled something that did not belong. Smoke. Not wood smoke, not pitch, a cold smoke, like a fire that had burned out long ago but still left a stain on the air. Ghost's ears snapped forward. The direwolf's head lifted, nose tasting the rain. Jon felt his own heart lurch, answering the wolf's alertness. "What is it?" Davos shouted, fighting his way toward them. Jon opened his mouth, but the answer did not come in words. Came in a sensation. Tug hard enough now to hurt. He pressed a hand to his chest as if he could catch the feeling and pin it down. The storm passed by dawn, leaving the sea bruised and restless. Jon returned to his bunk with water in his hair and salt on his lips. He tried to sleep and could not. The smell of that cold smoke lingered in his mind like a mark. Days blurred. They skirted the stepstones, where pirate sails flickered like teeth on the horizon. Morito avoided them with the ease of a man who had paid tribute or spilled blood before. Jon stood watch with Ghost at his side and felt something in the east draw nearer, like a door slowly opening. On the 7th night after Braavos, the air changed. It grew warmer, heavier. The stars shifted. The sea was calmer, but Jon did not trust it. Calm often meant waiting. Davos came to stand beside him. "You've been staring that way since we left," he said quietly, nodding toward the dark horizon. Jon flexed his fingers, feeling the raw spots where rope had burned him. "Something's there," he said. "I can't explain it." Davos's gaze went to Ghost. "The wolf thinks so too." Ghost's red eyes glinted. He looked not afraid, but intent, as if the sea were merely another forest and the thing calling was prey he meant to claim. Jon swallowed. "I don't know what I'm doing," he admitted, the words torn from him by honesty. Davos's laugh was soft and bitter. "That's the only honest thing a man can say at sea," he replied. "And yet we sail anyway." Jon stared into the dark and felt the tug answer him, patient and relentless. Qarth glittered like a lie told beautifully. The city rose pale and proud from the desert, its walls bright in the sun, its towers crowned with colored glass that caught the light and threw it back in dazzling shards. After weeks of gray sea and harsher ports, it looked almost gentle. Jon trusted it even less because of that. They docked among ships from a dozen lands. The harbor stank of spices and sweat, of fish guts and perfume. Men shouted in languages Jon could not name. Merchants in silk moved like peacocks, their fingers heavy with rings. Slaves carried crates under watchful eyes. Ghost drew the gaze of everyone. Some recoiled in fear, others in fascination. A few stared with hunger, the way a butcher might appraise a fat calf. Jon kept his hand near his sword, though he knew steel was not always enough in places like this. Captain Morito met them at the gangplank. "I deliver you to Qarth," he said. "Here my contract ends." Jon studied the masked man. "You won't go farther?" Morito's mouth curved. "I have sailed far," he said. "I have looked into waters where the stars do not reflect properly. I have no desire to sail into the shadow." Davos snorted. "Cowardice is sometimes wisdom." Morito bowed to him. "Then you will live longer than brave men," he said, and turned away. They found lodging in a narrow house owned by a Pentoshi woman who did not ask questions so long as coin was placed in her palm. Davos went to seek information in the harbor taverns, slipping easily into that old sailor role of listening and drinking and pretending to be harmless. Jon went into the city with Ghost. He drew his hood up, though it did little to hide him. His scars were not visible, but he felt them like brand marks on his skin. The streets were a flood of color. Painted faces, bright cloth, music on strange instruments. Yet beneath it all Jon sensed something brittle. The smiles were too sharp. The laughter came too quickly, as if fear lurked just beneath and everyone was trying to drown it. He saw warlocks in blue-lipped silence standing under archways, their eyes glassy. He saw shadowbinders with veiled faces moving like black fish through the crowd. He smelled incense and blood, sometimes together. A man approached him near a fountain. His robe was green, embroidered with gold. He had a beard oiled into points and eyes that were too bright. "You are far from home, Northman," the man said in common tongue, his voice smooth, "and you bring a beast no one should own." Jon's hand tightened on Ghost's fur. "Leave." The man smiled wider. "I have heard whispers," he said. "A dead man returned. A wolf with red eyes. A hunger for the east." He leaned closer. "What do you seek? Dragons? I can sell you dragons. I can sell you anything." "I seek passage," Jon said. "Passage to where?" The man purred. Jon looked into his face and saw greed. It was the same in every land. "Far," he said. The man's smile did not falter. "Far is expensive," he said. "Far is dangerous." His gaze flicked to Ghost. "But perhaps you have something worth the risk." Ghost growled then, not loud, but deep. It vibrated through Jon's bones. The man took a half step back, hands lifting in false peace. Jon's voice was cold. "Walk away." The man hesitated, then smiled again, thin and resentful. He turned and melted into the crowd. Jon continued, but he felt eyes on him now. Not just curious eyes, measuring ones. The tug in his chest had become a steady ache, stronger with every step eastward, as if the very streets were guiding him. That night Davos returned with a name on his tongue. "There's a captain," he said. "A Qarthian with a ship that sails past the Jade Gates. He'll take us to the Jade Sea for coin and a favor." "What favor?" Jon asked. Davos grimaced. "He wants a thing fetched from a Warlock's house. A trinket. Something to do with glass candles." He rubbed a hand over his beard. "I don't like it." Jon stared at the lantern flame. He thought of the black shard in Braavos, of how it had seemed to pulse. "We don't have the luxury of liking," Jon said. Davos sighed. He admitted. "That's what I feared you'd say." They went to the Warlock's house the next night, slipping through alleys where the city's glitter fell away and rot showed through. Ghost moved ahead of them, silent, his nose working. Jon felt the wolf's focus like a hand on his spine. Inside, the air tasted of sweet rot and cold ash. They found the trinket, a small black candle that did not burn, and fled as blue-lipped men gave chase, their feet making no sound on stone. They reached the Qarthian captain's ship before dawn. The man took the candle without a word, eyes shining with something that was not gratitude but hunger. He ordered his crew to raise sail at once. As Qarth shrank behind them, Jon stood at the stern with Ghost and felt the tug in his chest pull harder than ever, like a hook set deep. The Shadowlands were calling. Asshai did not glitter. It loomed. The river that carried them in was black and slow, reflecting no sky. The city's buildings were built of oily dark stone that seemed to drink lantern light the way thirsty soil drank rain. No children's voices rang out. No dogs barked. Even the water lapping at the dock sounded muffled, as if afraid to wake something. Jon stepped onto the dock and felt the air press on him, heavy and stale. It smelled of smoke that had never been warm, of metal, of old incense clinging to stone. Davos's face was tight, his eyes narrowed as he took in the silent city. "I don't like this," Davos said. Jon did not answer because his chest hurt. The tug was no longer a pull. It was a cord stretched to breaking. He could almost point to it, almost see it, like a thread of black fire running from his heart into the city. Ghost froze at the end of the dock, hackles rising. His lips pulled back from his teeth, not in a snarl of anger but in the expression of a wolf scenting something it did not understand and did not trust. Figures watched them from the shadows. Some wore veils, some wore masks, some had their faces painted in patterns that made them look like skulls. Jon saw a man with hands stained red up to the wrists and a woman with hair so pale it looked like bone. Their eyes followed Ghost with a hunger that made Jon's skin crawl. A guide approached them, silent as mist. He was tall and thin, his skin dark, his hair bound back. A strip of black cloth covered his mouth and nose. When he spoke, his voice was low and rough, as if unused. "You come seeking," he said in common tongue that was oddly formal. "Nothing comes to Asshai without seeking, not even those who flee." "We seek a market," Davos said warily. The guide's eyes flicked to Jon. "You seek more than market," he said. "You seek sleeping fire wrapped in night." Jon's stomach tightened. "Who told you?" The guide did not answer. He simply turned and gestured for them to follow. They walked through streets paved with black stone that was slick as if it had been oiled. Lanterns hung from iron hooks, their flames small and sickly, casting shadows that did not fall where they should. Jon found himself watching those shadows, expecting them to move on their own. Ghost stayed close, shoulder brushing Jon's leg. The direwolf's tail was stiff. His ears swiveled constantly. Jon felt the wolf's unease as his own, amplified by that strange half-bond that had grown stronger since death. They passed a square where stalls stood under awnings of dark cloth. Objects were laid out like offerings. Strange knives with blades that seemed to drink light, jars filled with pale worms, bones carved into runes, masks that looked like faces pulled from corpses. A merchant held up a small black stone that pulsed faintly, as if it had a heartbeat. Jon forced himself not to stare. The guide led them to a building that looked like a temple. Its doors were carved with shapes that hurt the eyes to follow, patterns that seemed to shift if you looked too long. Jon's skull ached as they stepped inside. The air was warmer within, but not comforting. It felt like standing near a fire that gave no light. The hall was crowded. People murmured in low voices. Cloaked figures moved between pillars. In the center, on a raised stone table, something sat under a cloth of black silk. Jon's breath caught. He did not need to see it to know. Ghost stopped dead, the direwolf's red eyes fixed on the covered shape. His body trembled, not with fear, but with intensity, like a hunting hound straining against a leash. The guide leaned in close to Jon. "Many desire it," he whispered. "Some for power, some for worship, some to end the world quickly rather than slowly." Jon's mouth was dry. "What is it?" The guide's eyes glinted. "An egg," he said, "but not like those that sailed from Valyria. This one was taken from the Shadowlands where things are born that should never see sun." A merchant stepped forward, lifting the black cloth with careful hands. The hall fell silent, as if the building itself held its breath. The egg was larger than Jon expected, bigger than a man's head. The surface was not smooth. It was scaled, but the scales were strange. Dark as charcoal with pale seams like cracks in old ice. It looked heavy, ancient, and wrong. Lantern light slid across it and vanished, swallowed. Jon felt his chest tug so hard he nearly staggered. Ghost let out a low sound. Not a growl, not a whine, something between. A note of claim. The merchant spoke, his voice oily. "This is fire asleep," he said. "Fire that remembers cold. Fire that will not serve a dragonlord's blood unless it chooses." Jon's hand drifted toward the egg without thinking. The merchant's stained fingers snapped down, blocking him. "Not touch," the merchant hissed. "Not unless you buy." Davos's voice was tight. "What's your price?" The merchant smiled, and in that smile Jon saw teeth filed to points. "Blood," the man said, "and a name." Jon's gaze locked on the egg. The wrongness of it pressed against his senses. Yet beneath that wrongness was something else. Sleeping, faint, waiting. Ghost stepped forward one pace, his breath hot on the stone table. Jon knew then, as surely as he'd known the wall was tall and winter was cruel. They could not leave that egg here. Whatever it was, whatever it would become, it was already reaching for them. And Ghost had already decided it belonged to the pack. Stealing from a market in Asshai was not like stealing from a drunk in Flea Bottom. The air itself felt like a witness. Jon waited until the murmurs grew louder, until the crowd shifted, until another merchant drew attention with a jar of something that writhed in pale coils. Davos moved like a man doing a thing he hated because he had no choice. He bumped a cloaked figure, muttered an apology, then shoved again, creating just enough chaos for Jon to step close to the stone table. The merchant's eyes were elsewhere for the briefest heartbeat. Jon's fingers closed around the black silk covering the egg. The moment he touched it, cold shot up his arm like a spike of ice. His breath hissed out. The egg was heavier than it looked. It did not feel like stone. It felt like holding a sleeping animal with too many teeth. Ghost pressed in, his flank against Jon's leg, and the cold eased slightly, as if the wolf's warmth pushed back whatever lived in the egg's skin. Jon pulled it free. The merchant's head snapped around. His smile vanished, replaced by a snarl. He opened his mouth to shout, but no sound came. His shadow stretched wrong across the floor, lifting as if it were a thing separate from him. "Now," Davos breathed. Jon turned. The crowd parted as if sensing disaster. Cloaked figures reached out with hands that gleamed with strange oils. One shadowbinder raised both palms, fingers splayed, and the lantern flames nearby shrank, dimming until the hall was filled with thick dusk. Jon ran. He tucked the egg against his chest, wrapped in the cloth, feeling its unnatural chill seep through layers. Davos cursed behind him, shoving people aside. Ghost surged forward, a white blur in the darkness, his growl finally breaking free. A deep, rolling sound that made the hair on Jon's arms rise. Shadows moved, not men's shadows. Things that detached from feet and pillars and slid like ink across stone. One curled toward Jon's legs, cold as grave soil. Jon stumbled as it wrapped around his ankle, not gripping like rope but numbing like frostbite. Ghost lunged, teeth flashed. The direwolf bit into the shadow as if it had flesh, and it shredded beneath his jaws with a sound like tearing cloth. Ghost shook his head violently, and the scraps of darkness scattered, dissolving into smoke. Jon's heart hammered. He could feel the egg's cold heartbeat, or perhaps it was his own, slowed by fear. He forced his feet to move. They burst out into the street. The night air outside was colder, sharper, but it did not feel clean. It felt watchful. Lanterns swung above them, their light weak and yellow. Shapes watched from doorways, faces hidden behind veils. A merchant stepped out ahead, blocking their path. Tall, veiled, hands bare despite the cold. When the figure lifted its head, Jon saw eyes that were not eyes at all but dark pits reflecting nothing. "You cannot take it," the figure said in a voice like dry leaves. Jon's arms tightened around the egg. "Watch me," he rasped. Ghost stepped forward, hackles raised, and the figure's shadow rose to meet him like a serpent. For a heartbeat the world held still. Then Ghost lunged. Ghost hit the veiled figure like a thrown boulder. The Shadowbinder staggered back, arms flinging wide. The serpent shadow whipped up and around Ghost's neck, tightening. Ghost snarled, the sound raw and animal, and twisted hard enough that Jon heard the shadow tear. It was like hearing ice crack, sharp, violent. Jon's breath came in ragged bursts. The egg pressed against his chest, cold and heavy, as if it wanted to sink through him and into the stone. He could feel something inside it. No voice, no thought, just an awareness that was beginning to stir. The Shadowbinder's hands rose, fingers curling. The lantern flames along the bridge guttered, shrinking until their light was barely more than embers. The darkness thickened, pressing in from the river, from the stones, from the air itself. Davos fumbled at his belt and drew a dagger, his face pale. "I can't stab a bloody shadow," he spat. "Stab the man," Jon snarled and stepped forward. He had killed men before. He had killed boys. He had killed wildlings and watched them die with surprise in their eyes. Killing was never easy, but it was simple. Shadow magic was not simple. He slashed with Longclaw. The Valyrian steel blade caught the dim light and seemed to drink it. Jon expected resistance, flesh and bone. The blade passed through the Shadowbinder's veil and found something solid beneath. The figure jerked, and a sound like a sigh escaped, faint and almost relieved. Dark blood, so dark it looked like ink, spilled onto the stone. The serpent shadow writhed, tightening around Ghost. Ghost choked, his paws scrabbling on slick stone. Jon's stomach clenched. He could feel the wolf's distress like a hot wire in his mind. "Ghost!" he shouted, though the wolf did not need his voice. Ghost bucked, twisting, and Jon felt his own body mirror the motion as the bond jerked him sideways. For a heartbeat Jon's vision blurred, splitting. His own eyes seeing the lanterns, Ghost's eyes seeing only the shadow's shape and the smell of fear. Then Ghost's jaws found the Shadowbinder's throat. He bit down hard. The Shadowbinder's body went limp. The serpent shadow dissolved like smoke on wind. Ghost staggered back, coughing, his fur bristling, his red eyes blazing. Jon stood over the fallen figure, chest heaving. The egg's cold no longer felt only cold. Felt attentive. They did not wait. Davos grabbed Jon's elbow, hauling him toward the far end of the bridge where the ship waited. The crew shouted, throwing ropes, lowering a plank. Jon half leapt, half stumbled onto it, the egg clutched tight. Ghost sprang after him, landing on the deck with a thud that made sailors flinch. One reached for a knife out of reflex. Ghost's head snapped toward him, lips peeling back. The knife clattered to the boards as the sailor reconsidered his life choices. "Push off," Davos bellowed, and the crew obeyed without needing Morito now. Oars dipped. The ship lurched away from the dock. On the bridge behind, figures gathered like crows. Veils, masks, painted faces. The merchant from the temple stood among them. His stained hands lifted as if calling down a curse. Shadows pooled at their feet, writhing. The river around the ship began to darken further, as if ink were being poured into it. Jon felt his stomach lurch. The water seemed to rise, forming shapes that were almost hands. Ghost moved to the ship's rail and snarled. He did not snarl at the men. He snarled at the river itself. Jon stepped beside him, clutching the egg. The cold in it pulsed, faint and slow, like a sleeping heart. With each pulse, the air around it seemed to thicken, as if the egg were gathering the darkness instead of fearing it. A shadow hand rose from the river, reaching for the hull, touched wood and froze. Not with ice, but with something like sudden stillness. The shadow hand became brittle and shattered into fragments that vanished into the black water. Jon stared. What? The egg pulsed again, and Ghost's fur lifted as if a breeze had touched him. Davos swore softly. "I don't know what you've stolen," he said, voice hoarse. "But it's not just a bloody rock." Jon looked down at the bundle in his arms, at the scaled surface barely visible beneath the cloth. He felt the tug in his chest ease for the first time since leaving the wall. Not gone, but satisfied, like a hook that had finally set. "We're not done," Jon said, though he did not know to whom he spoke. Davos, Ghost, himself, or the thing sleeping in his arms. Behind them, Asshai receded into darkness, but Jon could still feel eyes on his back, patient and hungry. They sailed out of the river and into open sea as if escaping a throat. The further they went from Asshai, the more Jon could breathe, though the air never felt fully clean. The crew spoke in whispers. Men avoided the hold where Jon kept the egg, not because he forbade them, but because something about it made their skin crawl. Jon understood. Even he felt wrong holding it, as if it were a secret too heavy for mortal hands. In the cramped cabin he shared with Davos, Jon unwrapped the egg for the first time since the escape. He did it slowly, carefully, like a man revealing a wound. The black silk fell away. The scaled surface caught the lamplight and swallowed it. Davos stared. He did not reach out. "It looks dead," he said. Jon shook his head. "It isn't," he said, and the certainty in his own voice startled him. Ghost lay beside Jon. His long body stretched along the floor, taking up half the cabin. The direwolf's head rested near Jon's knee. When the egg was revealed, Ghost lifted his muzzle and pressed it gently against the cold scales. Jon's breath caught. The egg pulsed beneath Ghost's touch. It was subtle, so subtle Jon might have imagined it if not for the way Ghost's ears twitched in response. The surface of the egg did not glow. It did not crack. Yet Jon felt the shift. A faint warmth blooming where Ghost's fur met the scales, like a coal waking under ash. Davos's eyes widened. "Did you see that?" Jon swallowed. "I felt it." He placed his palm against the egg, opposite Ghost's muzzle. The cold seeped into his skin, then paused, as if tasting him, judging him. Jon's mind flashed with images. A cavern of black stone, a sky without sun, shadows crawling over eggs like spiders. Then Ghost's presence surged in his mind, solid and bright. The direwolf's calm steadied him, pushing back the darkness like a shoulder against a door. The egg pulsed again, stronger. Jon's fingers tightened. "It responds to him," he whispered. Davos's voice was rough with awe and fear. "That wolf of yours has always been strange," he said. "But this," Ghost's eyes opened. Red, steady, intelligent. He looked at Jon, then back to the egg. He made a sound deep in his throat, soft, almost a rumble of contentment. Jon felt something in his chest loosen. The tug that had dragged him across half the world had become a thread now, connecting him to the egg through Ghost's unwavering presence. Not a chain, not a leash, a bond, forming quietly in the dark. That night Jon did not sleep much. He sat with the egg between his knees while Ghost lay against it as if guarding a pup. Davos dozed fitfully, his injured arm wrapped in cloth, his face pinched even in sleep. Outside the cabin the sea rolled and hissed. The ship creaked and groaned. Stars were absent, hidden by cloud, making the world feel sealed in black. Jon watched the egg. He listened. At some point, when the lamp had burned low and the ship's sounds had become the only rhythm, Jon heard it. Not a crack, not a hiss, a faint tapping from within. Jon froze. His hand hovered inches from the scales. Ghost stirred. The direwolf's ears pricked, and he pressed his muzzle more firmly against the egg as if answering the sound with silent certainty. The tapping came again, a little stronger. The egg pulsed, and the warmth beneath Ghost's fur spread along the seams, tracing pale lines like veins. Jon's throat tightened with something that was not fear and not hope but both tangled together. "Not yet," he whispered, though he did not know why he said it. Ghost did not listen. Ghost never listened the way men meant when they spoke of obedience. Ghost listened the way winter listened to the world, with inevitability. The egg tapped again, and Jon felt, through Ghost's steady mind, through his own trembling hands, that whatever slept inside had heard the wolf's heartbeat. It was learning it. It was choosing it. Jon looked down at Ghost, at the white fur and red eyes, and felt a chill that had nothing to do with winter. He had stolen sleeping fire from the farthest dark of the world, and Ghost had already claimed it as pack. The tapping grew more certain, as if whatever lived inside had found a rhythm and meant to keep it. Jon held his breath until his chest hurt. The lamp flame trembled in its glass, throwing thin, nervous light across the egg's surface. The scaled shell looked slick as wet coal, and the pale seams that had once seemed like cracks in old ice now glimmered faintly, as though something beneath pushed against them from within. Ghost's muzzle was still pressed to the shell. The direwolf's breath came slow and even, warm against the cold scales. Jon could feel the wolf's focus like a pressure behind his eyes. It was not curiosity. It was the steady concentration of a creature that had decided something mattered more than sleep, more than hunger, more than the sea's endless motion. Davos's hands hovered uselessly near his dagger, as if steel could defend against whatever was about to be born. His face was drawn tight, the lines around his eyes deeper than they'd been in Braavos. "If it hatches," he whispered, as if loud words might provoke the thing. "What in the Seven's name do we do then?" Jon did not answer. His palm lay against the egg, opposite Ghost's muzzle, and he felt the pulse again, slow, deliberate. It was not warmth like a fire. It was warmth like blood. Cracks sounded, small, sharp. Jon flinched anyway. The seam closest to Ghost's muzzle split, just enough for a thread of darker darkness to show through. Not the darkness of a shadow in lamplight, but a deeper black, like a cave mouth that swallowed sound. Ghost made a low sound in his throat, not a growl, not a whine. Something like the rumble of a father wolf greeting a pup. Jon's fingers tightened. His mind slid, unbidden, toward Ghost in that half-familiar way. He felt the direwolf's heart, steady as a drum. He felt the sense of claim, of pack, of certainty so solid it seemed to shape the air. The egg cracked again, wider this time. A piece of shell lifted, then fell back with a soft click, as if whatever pushed from inside was testing strength, learning the shell's give. Davos swallowed. "Jon, I know," Jon murmured, though he did not know anything except that his skin prickled as if a storm were about to break. The shell split with a tearing sound. A shard lifted, rocked, and fell away. Something moved in the gap, slick and dark and small like a wet fist. The smell hit Jon then. Smoke, cold and metallic, like iron left out in winter. Ghost's nostrils flared. The wolf did not retreat. He pressed closer, so close that his whiskers brushed the broken edge. The hatchling forced its way out with a slow, stubborn violence. It did not burst free in a shower of shell. It levered itself out, one clawed foot at a time, dragging a body that seemed too heavy for its size. Its scales were dark as burned wood, but along its spine ran pale seams that looked like frost trapped under skin. Its wings were folded tight, slick and veined. Its eyes opened to the lamplight, wet, glossy and black, with a depth that made Jon think of the river in Asshai. It lifted its head and looked at Jon. For a heartbeat, Jon felt something press against his mind. Not words, not thoughts shaped like a man's. A sensation, hunger and cold, and a faint echo of something older than memory. Then Ghost shifted, and the hatchling's gaze snapped to him. It made a sound, small, rasping, almost like a cough, and then it moved with startling purpose. It did not crawl toward Jon's warmth. It did not seek Davos's hands. It scrambled straight over the broken shell, claws clicking softly, and pressed its head into Ghost's fur beneath the direwolf's throat. It burrowed there like a pup finding milk, shivering once, twice, then going still. Ghost did not bite. Ghost did not flinch. He lowered his head slowly, almost ceremoniously, and rested his chin above the hatchling as if forming a shelter of bone and fur. Jon's mouth had gone dry. "Ghost," he whispered, as if the wolf had done something forbidden. Ghost's red eyes lifted to Jon's. There was no guilt in them, only calm. The hatchling's tail flicked once, then wrapped awkwardly against Ghost's foreleg. It breathed in short, shallow pulls, each breath fogging faintly despite the cabin's warmth. The small body rose and fell, and Jon realized with a slow, astonished dread that the hatchling's breathing matched Ghost's. Davos let out a shaky breath. It went to him. Jon stared at the creature nestled against the direwolf's throat, and the strangest thought in the world came to him. Simple as snow, heavy as stone. It had chosen the pack first. Word travels faster than wind on a ship. By dawn, men were already whispering. Jon heard it in the way footsteps paused outside the cabin door. He heard it in the sudden hush that fell when he walked up onto the deck, Ghost beside him and the hatchling tucked against the direwolf's chest like a grotesque, scaly shadow. The sea was calm, but the sky hung low and gray, as if the sun were ashamed to show its face. Salt wind combed through hair and cloth and fur. Ghost moved with measured steps, shoulders rolling, eyes forward. The hatchling clung to him with awkward determination. Claws sunk into the thick white fur, head tucked under Ghost's jaw. It looked absurd and terrifying at once. A dragon, if that word even fit, using a direwolf as its mother. Men backed away as if Jon carried plague. Captain Jon came striding across the deck, his robe pulled tight against the cold, his rings flashing dull gold. He was a Qarthine of the old sort, proud and hard-eyed, his beard braided with little beads that clicked when he moved. His gaze fixed on the creature clinging to Ghost, and for the first time since Jon had met him, the captain's face went pale. "What have you brought onto my ship?" Jon demanded. His voice cracked on the last word, anger and fear wrestling in it like dogs. Jon kept his stance relaxed, though his hand hovered near Longclaw. "A hatchling," he said. "A curse," Jon spat. "A shadow's child. Do you think the sea will tolerate it? Do you think my men will?" Davos stepped in, his voice low and steady. "Your men already took coin to bring us," he said. "Coin buys silence as well as passage." Jon's eyes snapped to Davos. "Coin buys nothing from the shadow," he hissed. "That city stains. It clings. It follows." Jon watched the crew. Some stared with fascination, unable to look away. Others made signs in the air, fingers touching brow and chest and throat as if warding off evil. One sailor, young, thin, had tears on his cheeks, though he stood still as if fear had frozen him. Ghost stopped. The direwolf turned his head slowly, letting his red gaze travel across the men. The effect was immediate. The sailors nearest stepped back another pace, faces taut. The hatchling shifted, sensing Ghost's movement. It lifted its head slightly, eyes blinking open. Black, wet, far too knowing. A thin thread of smoke drifted from its nostrils. Not warm smoke, curled in the air like ink in water. One man gasped. Jon's hand flew up, palm outward. "Keep it below," he snapped. "If it must exist, it exists where I do not see it. If my crew mutinies, if my ship turns, your wolf and your little demon will drown with the rest of us." "It won't drown," a sailor muttered, too low for Jon to hear, but Jon heard it. Fear gives men sharp ears. Jon stepped forward, meeting the captain's gaze. "You will take us west," he said, "to Volantis, to any port with smugglers and ships bound for Westeros." Jon's laugh was thin. "Westeros?" he scoffed. "You think you can bring that thing into your frozen kingdoms like a pet? You think lords will bow? They will cut your throat for it." Jon's jaw tightened. "Let them try." The hatchling made a faint clicking sound and pressed its head back into Ghost's fur, as if the argument bored it. Ghost stood unmoved, a wall of white muscle and calm violence. Jon's gaze slid to Ghost, then away quickly. Even he did not like looking into those red eyes for long. "Below," he repeated, voice harsh. "And keep your wolf on a leash." Jon's mouth tightened. He did not argue because arguments were for men with more safety than he had. He turned and led Ghost back toward the cabin, feeling the crew's eyes on his back like knives. Behind him, he heard Jon bark orders, his voice too loud, too sharp, trying to restore control over a deck that had suddenly become haunted. As Jon descended, Ghost's shoulder brushed his thigh, steady as ever. The hatchling's small body pressed harder against the direwolf's chest, and Jon felt, like a chill under his skin, the certainty that the creature was not afraid of these men at all. It was only listening, learning the pack's enemies. When the cabin door shut, the ship's noises dulled to a distant creak and hiss, like a giant breathing in its sleep. Jon knelt beside Ghost and ran his fingers through the direwolf's fur. It was damp with sea air. The hatchling was still pressed beneath Ghost's throat, eyes closed, body rising and falling in small breaths. It had not eaten. Jon did not know what it would eat. He did not know if it would accept meat or blood or something stranger. Davos sat on the edge of the bunk, his bandaged arm resting across his knees. His face was gray with exhaustion. "We should have left it," he said quietly, and the words sounded like blasphemy in the small room. Jon did not look up. "You don't believe that?" Davos's laugh was short. "No," he admitted, "but believing doesn't make it sane." Jon's fingers paused on Ghost's neck. He felt the wolf's warmth. He felt the steady pulse. He felt the calm certainty that Ghost carried like a crown. "I was dead," Jon said softly. "I came back. That isn't sane either." Davos stared at him for a long moment, then looked away. He murmured. "Fair." Silence stretched. The hatchling shifted, tiny claws flexing unconsciously in Ghost's fur. A faint sound escaped it, almost a sigh. The pale seams along its ribs glimmered faintly, as if light moved under its skin. Jon leaned closer. The glow pulsed once, then faded. His mind reached toward Ghost without him meaning it to. The bond was stronger now than it had ever been at Castle Black. It had always been there, a door in his skull left slightly open. Death had blown it wide. He slipped in. The cabin fell away. The world sharpened into scent and sound. Ghost's senses were a flood salt, wood sweat, the faint tang of Davos's blood beneath his bandage. Jon felt Ghost's steady heartbeat like an ocean's rhythm. He felt Ghost's calm, his patient attention, his protective claim. And beneath it, curled tight like a cold ember, he felt the hatchling. Not fully, not clearly, but enough. A mind small and ancient at once. A hunger like a hollow cave. A curiosity that did not carry human warmth. It was not affectionate. It was not cruel. It was simply present. Jon pushed gently, trying to touch it the way he might touch a frightened pup in a dream. The hatchling's awareness stirred, a ripple of darkness, and for a heartbeat Jon saw stone, black stone, slick with wet. A ceiling so high it vanished. Shapes moving along the walls that were not men and not beasts, shadows with hands. He jerked back, breath catching in his own throat. He was himself again, kneeling beside Ghost. his heart hammered. Davos leaned forward. "What is it?" Jon swallowed. His tongue felt thick. "It remembers," he said, and hated how certain he sounded. Davos's brow furrowed. "Remembers what?" Jon looked at the hatchling's sleeping form, at the way it pressed into ghost as if the direwolf's heartbeat were the only safe thing in the world. "Darkness," Jon said. "A place where it should have stayed asleep." Davos's voice dropped. "Then why did it come?" Jon's gaze slid to Ghost. The direwolf's eyes were half-lidded, but he was not asleep. He watched Jon with a steady intelligence, as if waiting for him to understand something simple. "Because Ghost called it," Jon said, and the truth of it chilled him. The hatchling stirred again. His eyes opened, black and glossy. It lifted its head, and in that moment Jon felt a brush against his mind, like a fingertip of cold smoke. It looked at him. Then, deliberately, it turned and nuzzled Ghost's throat again, closing its eyes as if the choice had been made and did not need repeating. Jon's chest tightened with something that was not jealousy but fear. He had stolen a dragon egg to save the world, but the first bond had not been his to claim. It belonged to the wolf. The first attempt to kill it came sooner than Jon expected. He smelled fear before he heard it. Fear has a scent, sharp, sour, like old sweat. Ghost caught it too. The dire wolf rose without sound, muscles tightening beneath fur. The hatchling, still clinging to him, lifted its head, nostrils flaring as if tasting the air. Jon opened the cabin door and stepped into the narrow passageway. Lantern light swayed. The ship's timber groaned with a slow roll. Somewhere below, men murmured in urgent tones. Davos followed, jaw set. "I knew it," he muttered. "They'll do something stupid." They reached the hatch leading down into the hold. The smell of tar and damp wood rose up, layered with that sour fear. Jon descended first, Longclaw at his hip, Ghost close, the hatchling clinging tight. The hold was dim, lit by 2 lanterns hanging from hooks. Barrels were stacked in rows, ropes coiled, sacks piled. Between them, half a dozen sailors stood in a tight knot, faces pale, eyes bright with panic. One held a small axe, knuckles white. Another held a net, the sort used for fish, as if a dragon could be caught like a herring. When they saw Jon, the men froze. "You can't keep it," the axeman blurted. His voice cracked. "It'll bring them, the shadow men, the cursed ones." "I saw." "You saw nothing," Jon said coldly. The man's gaze flicked to Ghost, and he flinched. But fear makes men reckless. He raised the axe higher. "It's a demon," he spat. "If we kill it now." Ghost moved before Jon could breathe. The direwolf lunged, fast as a thrown spear. The axeman swung wildly. The blade bit into Ghost's shoulder with a wet thud. Jon's world narrowed to a pinpoint. Ghost's snarl ripped through the hold like thunder. He slammed into the man, jaws clamping down on his forearm. Bone cracked. The axe clattered to the floor. The man screamed, a high, panicked sound that made the other sailors recoil. The hatchling reacted like a spark to oil. It lifted its head, mouth opening. For a heartbeat, Jon saw the inside of its maw, dark and wet, tongue black as bruises. It made a sound, thin, high, not quite a roar, and then it breathed. Not flame like the songs promised. A ribbon of black smoke unfurled, dense as ink. It hit the lantern's light and did not glow. It shimmered, cold and wrong. The ribbon struck the floorboards near the sailors' feet. The wood did not catch fire. Frosted, white rime raced outward in a spiderweb, crawling up barrel staves, licking across rope coils. The air snapped colder, biting skin. Men cried out, stumbling back, slipping on sudden ice. Then, beneath the frost, the wood charred, blackened as if burned from within. Jon stared, heart hammering, as the impossible mingled. Ice and burn, cold and ruin in the same breath. "Gods," Davos whispered. Ghost released the axeman and stood over him, blood dark on his muzzle. The man curled on the floor, whimpering, his arm mangled. His eyes rolled toward Jon with wild pleading. Jon's hand was on Longclaw now, half-drawn. The Valyrian steel hummed faintly, as if it recognized old magic in the air. "Enough!" Jon snarled, voice cutting through the hold. Ghost's head snapped toward him. The direwolf's red eyes burned, not with mindless rage but with the sharp focus of a protector. The hatchling clung tighter to Ghost's fur, breathing hard, smoke curling from its nostrils. Jon stepped forward, boots crunching on frost. He did not look away from the men. "No one touches it," he said, each word a nail. "No one comes near Ghost. If you try again, you won't crawl away." One sailor swallowed, eyes darting. "It's unnatural," he whispered. Jon's smile was humorless. "So am I," he said. The men backed away, pressing themselves against barrels as if the wood might protect them. The axeman sobbed softly, clutching his ruined arm. Jon did not pity him. Pity was a luxury. He had learned that long ago. He turned to Ghost. Blood seeped from the gash on the direwolf's shoulder, dark against white fur. Jon's chest ached. He reached out, touching the wound with careful fingers. Ghost did not flinch. He leaned into Jon's hand. The hatchling pressed its head against the wound, almost curious. Jon froze. "No," he whispered. The hatchling ignored him. It breathed out, not a ribbon this time, but a faint mist, cold smoke, barely visible. The blood on Ghost's fur darkened, then thickened, then stopped flowing. The edges of the wound crusted with rime, sealing like a frozen scab. Ghost's breathing steadied. Davos stared, mouth slightly open. "It healed him," he said. Jon's hand trembled. He looked at the hatchling's closed eyes, the way it settled again beneath Ghost's jaw as if satisfied. And he felt, in the pit of his stomach, the weight of what they were carrying. This was no simple dragon. This was something that knew cold as well as fire, and it had chosen Ghost as its first law. After that, the crew kept their distance. They spoke to Jon only when forced. They avoided Ghost as if the direwolf carried death in his teeth. Some of them slept with knives under their pillows. Others tied little bundles of herbs to the masts, whispering prayers to gods Jon did not know. Cavo Jean watched Jon with a simmering resentment, but he did not try to move against him again. Fear can be a leash if you hold it firmly enough. The hatchling grew. Not like a normal creature grows, slowly, painfully, the way Jon had watched puppies in Winterfell become dogs over seasons. This growth was hungry and abrupt. Each day its limbs seemed a little longer, its claws sharper, its wings less crumpled. Its pale seams, those frost veins beneath dark scales, brightened at night and dimmed by day, like a heartbeat made visible. It ate too. At first Jon offered it strips of salted fish. The hatchling sniffed, made a faint clicking sound, and turned away. When Jon held out a piece of raw meat, it took it grudgingly, chewing with slow, deliberate bites that made Jon think of a lizard cracking bone. But it did not truly feed until Ghost fed. When Ghost tore into meat with wolfish efficiency, the hatchling watched intently, head tilted. Then it lunged in, snapping up scraps, swallowing 2 large pieces with a rough gulp. It ate faster beside Ghost, as if the wolf's hunger taught it how to be hungry. It followed Ghost everywhere. When the direwolf rose, it rose. When Ghost lay down, it curled beneath his throat. When Ghost paced the deck in restless circles, the hatchling rode his back awkwardly, claws clinging, wings half spread for balance. Jon watched them and felt equal parts awe and dread. He had expected to claim a dragon, to bind it to himself through blood or will. Instead, he had brought a hatchling into the world that took its lessons from a wolf. Some nights, when the sea was calm and the crew slept, Jon stood on deck with Ghost and the hatchling and tried to understand the bond threading between them. He would place a hand on Ghost's neck, another on the hatchling's shoulder, and close his eyes. Sometimes, just for a heartbeat, his mind would slip sideways. He would feel Ghost's steady calm, then the hatchling's cold hunger, and for a flicker the world would split into 3. Man, wolf, and something that was neither, something that tasted the air as if it could smell secrets. One night the moon hung low, pale as bone. The sea was dark glass beneath it. Ghost padded to the ship's rail and looked out across the water, ears forward. The hatchling climbed onto his back, small wings unfolding. Jon watched, breath held. The hatchling crouched, muscles bunching. Its wings snapped open. The movement was sudden, startlingly graceful. It leapt, not into the sea but upward, using Ghost's broad back as a springboard. For a heartbeat it hung in the air, wings beating hard, awkward but strong. Wind caught under the dark membranes. The hatchling rose a few feet, wobbling, tail whipping. It made a thin, rasping sound, half triumph, half strain. Then it faltered and dropped, landing clumsily back onto Ghost with a thud. Ghost did not react with irritation. He simply shifted his stance, bracing, as if he had expected the weight. The hatchling scrambled to steady itself, then pressed its head against Ghost's neck in what looked almost like apology. Jon's chest tightened. He did not know why that small, almost tender gesture unsettled him more than the Shadowflame. It was not affection in any human sense. It was loyalty expressed in the only language the hatchling understood, pack. Davos came up behind Jon, quiet as he could manage on a wooden deck. "It's learning," he said softly. Jon did not look away from the two creatures under the moon. "From him," Jon said. Davos's voice was rough. "From you too." Jon finally glanced at Davos, then back to Ghost. "It doesn't look at me the way it looks at him," Jon admitted. Davos nodded slowly. "Maybe that's a mercy," he said. Jon's mouth tightened. "Or a warning." The hatchling lifted its head and looked toward Jon. Its eyes were black pools catching moonlight. For a heartbeat, Jon felt that cold brush against his mind again, a touch like smoke. Then the hatchling turned away, as if Jon were merely part of the environment, important, present, but not the center. Ghost's red gaze met Jon's, steady and unreadable. Jon felt a strange helplessness, unfamiliar and sharp. He had faced kings and death and betrayal. Yet this bond forming without his permission made him feel like a boy watching a door close. Somewhere far behind them, Asshai's darkness might still be watching. Somewhere ahead, Westeros waited beneath snow, and on his deck, a dragon learned to be a wolf. Volantis smelled like heat and bodies and old river mud. The ship slid into the harbor at dawn, past rows of towering masts and the looming black walls that guarded the city like a clenched fist. The Rhoyne's waters were brown and slow, thick with silt and secrets. Slaves moved in chains along the quays, their backs bent under crates and bales. Triarch banners fluttered in the heavy air. Everything was louder here than the cold world Jon had left. Shouting merchants, clattering carts, crying gulls, the constant hum of too many lives pressed together. Captain Cavo-Jean insisted they leave quickly. He wanted them off his ship like rot cut from a wound. Jon did not argue. He took what supplies he could, kept his hood up, and wrapped Ghost in a dark canvas cloak that made the direwolf look like a misshapen bear. It did not hide him well. Nothing could hide Ghost's size. But it broke the sharp line of white fur that drew eyes from across streets. The hatchling clung beneath the canvas against Ghost's chest, small enough still to conceal if you did not look too closely. Its breath fogged faintly in the warmer air, the only sign of its unnatural cold. Davos walked close, watchful. His bandaged arm had begun to ache badly in the humid heat. "We need a ship west," he murmured. "A clean one that doesn't ask questions." "Every ship asks questions," Jon said. "Some just ask with knives." They moved through the wharf, weaving between crates and men. Ice followed them. Jon felt it like prickling on his neck. Volantis was a city built on watching. Masters watching slaves, thieves watching masters, priests watching everyone. They passed a brazier where a red-robed priest stood speaking to a small crowd. His skin was black as polished wood, his eyes bright. Flames danced in the brazier, and the priest's voice rose and fell like a chant. Jon tried to ignore him. Then the priest turned his head as if listening to something beyond sound, and his gaze locked onto Jon. Not Jon's face, not Ghost's wrapped bulk. Something beneath. The priest's eyes widened a fraction. He stopped speaking mid-sentence. The crowd murmured, confused, but the priest stepped away from them without apology and began walking straight toward Jon. Davos stiffened. Jon! Jon's hand went to his sword. Ghost's ears angled forward beneath the canvas. The hatchling shifted, claws flexing. The priest stopped a few paces away. He did not smile. He did not look afraid. He looked reverent, as if he had stepped into a temple. "You carry fire that remembers the dark," the priest said in careful common tongue. His accent was thick, but his words were precise. "And you carry death that walks." Jon's jaw tightened. "I carry nothing you need to name." The priest's gaze flicked to Davos. "Onion Knight," he said, as if tasting the title. "And the wolf, and the Shadowfire." Davos's face paled. "How do you?" "I am Moqorro," the priest said simply. "The Lord of Light shows me truths in flame." His eyes returned to Jon. "He did not show me this. I felt it." Jon's skin prickled. "We're not here for priests," he said. Moqorro's gaze did not waver. "You are here because the world is dying," he replied softly, "and because something in your arms will either save it or teach it how to die faster." Jon's hand tightened on Longclaw. "Speak plainly." Moqorro's mouth curved faintly, not amusement, but solemn understanding. "Dragons wake," he said. "The old war returns. Fire and ice. But this," he nodded toward Ghost's canvas-wrapped bulk, "this is a path the flames did not know." The hatchling shifted again, and the canvas stirred. Moqorro's eyes sharpened. His voice dropped. "It listens to the wolf." Jon felt anger flare, hot and sudden. "It listens to what it wants." Moqorro's gaze softened, as if seeing the truth beneath Jon's defiance. "Yes," he said, "and that is why you should be afraid." Davos leaned in close to Jon, voice tight. "We should go," he murmured. Jon met Moqorro's eyes. "We need passage west," Jon said. "If you want to help, help. If not, step aside." Moqorro's head tilted slightly. "West is not the only direction," he said, "but it is the one your heart pulls toward." He glanced toward the river, where ships rocked in the brown water. "There is a captain who will take you to the narrow sea, for coin and for a promise." "What promise?" Jon demanded. Moqorro's smile was thin. "That when the long night comes," he said, "you will not hide your fire." Jon's stomach tightened. He thought of the hatchling's cold flame frosting wood and burning it black. He thought of ghosts standing between men and shadows on an Asshai bridge. "I don't know what it is," Jon admitted, and it cost him to say it. Moqorro nodded once, as if that honesty mattered. "None of us do," he said. "That is why the gods watch." Jon turned away before anger could spill out again. He did not like being watched. He did not like being spoken of as prophecy. He had died once for men's beliefs. As they moved down the wharf, he felt Moqorro's gaze on his back like warmth, and the hatchling's mind, cold and alert beneath the canvas, tasting the city's air as if learning new prey. They did not make it 3 streets before the city tried to take what he carried. It began with footsteps that matched theirs too closely. Jon heard it in the rhythm, 3 sets of boots, then none, then 3 again. Davos caught it too. His posture tightened, his gaze flicking to reflections in puddles and dark windows. Ghosts smelled them before Jon saw them. The direwolf's body tensed under the canvas, shoulder blades shifting like stones rolling beneath cloth. The hatchling's claws flexed against Ghost's fur, a tiny scrape that Jon felt more than heard. They turned down a narrow lane where red lanterns hung from iron hooks, making the air glow like blood. The smell of cooking meat and sewage mixed thickly. Shadows pooled in doorways. Jon's skin prickled. A figure stepped out ahead, blocking the lane. Cloaked in dark cloth, veil over face, hands bare. Then another behind them. Then another. Davos swore softly. "Asshai," he whispered, and the way he said it made it a curse. The figure ahead spoke in a language Jon did not know. The voice was flat, emotionless. Command. Jon's hand went to Longclaw. "Move." he said in common tongue, voice cold. The figure did not move. Instead, it lifted a hand. The lantern flame nearest shrank, dimming as if swallowed. The red light faded toward sickly brown. The shadows deepened. Ghost growled beneath the canvas, a deep rolling sound that made the air vibrate. The hatchling shifted, head pushing out from under the cloth, eyes opening, black pools in the lantern glow. The shadow-clad figures flinched at the sight, though they hid it quickly. They had expected a man and a wolf. They had not expected a dragon that breathed cold. One of them stepped forward, reaching. Its hand held a small blade carved from black stone. Jon's breath hitched. The blade did not reflect lantern light. It drank it. Jon drew Longclaw. Valyrian steel slid free with a sound like a whisper. The blade caught the lantern glow and held it, bright and sharp. The shadow-clad figure hesitated, as if the steel itself offended it. Davos pulled his dagger, though his injured arm shook. "Jon, I won't run," Jon said, and surprised himself with the calm in his voice. He had run enough in his life. He was tired of it. The figure lunged. Ghost exploded forward, canvas tearing as the direwolf surged. Teeth flashed. The figure barely managed to twist aside. Ghost's jaws closed on cloth instead of flesh, ripping it away in a single savage pull. The figure's veil tore off. Beneath it was a face painted black, eyes ringed with pale ash. The eyes were dead, flat, as if the man had burned out everything human to become a tool. The hatchling made a thin, sharp sound and breathed. Black smoke poured from its mouth, but it was not warm. It rolled along the cobbles like liquid fog. Wherever it touched, frost bloomed, white rime crawling over stone, up wooden crates, across iron nails. The lantern's flame sputtered and nearly died. One of the shadow-clad men shouted, voice suddenly cracking with fear. He stepped back and slipped. His boots hit the sudden ice. He fell hard, cracking his head against the cobbles with a sound that made Jon's stomach twist. The black smoke curled over him. Frost climbed his clothing. His breath came out in a thin wheeze. The air around his mouth crystallized. Then, beneath the frost, the cobbles blackened as if burned from within. Jon's throat tightened. The hatchling's power was not clean. It was not the bright, destructive fire of song. It was cold ruin that did not care what it touched. The remaining shadow-clad figures faltered, regrouping. One raised both hands, fingers splayed. Shadows in the alley lifted, thickening, reaching toward Ghost like black arms. Ghost snarled and lunged again, but the shadow arms met him, wrapping around his shoulders, tightening. Ghost fought, muscles bulging, breath harsh. Jon felt the pressure around his own ribs, as if the shadow had reached for him too through the bond. Jon stepped forward, blade raised, and slashed through the shadow arms. Longclaw cut them as if they were cloth. The darkness shredded, dissolving into smoke. The shadow-clad man recoiled, eyes widening for the first time. He did not expect Valyrian steel. He did not expect a wolf that fought shadows. He did not expect Jon Snow. Dead man returned, cutting his magic apart with a sword. The hatchling hissed, low and sharp. It shifted on Ghost's back, wings half unfolding. Its pale seams glowed brighter, pulsing. Jon saw the moment it decided the alley was a hunt. It leapt from Ghost, landing on the cobbles with a wet thud. It was still small, but it moved with startling confidence, head low like a wolf's, tail stiff. It snapped at the nearest shadow-clad man's ankle, teeth sinking into cloth and skin. The man screamed, stumbling. The hatchling exhaled a short burst of black smoke directly onto the man's leg. Frost raced up his calf. His scream turned into a choking gasp as his muscles seized. The flesh blackened under the rime. He collapsed, twitching. Davos stared, horror on his face. "Jon!" Jon's stomach churned, but he forced himself not to flinch away. If he recoiled now, he would lose control. He would lose Ghost's trust. He would lose the hatchling's thin, cold attention. "Enough!" Jon snapped, voice hard as ice. The hatchling paused, head turning toward him. Its eyes were black and unreadable. For a heartbeat, Jon felt that cold brush against his mind. Curiosity, hunger, and something like amusement. Then Ghost padded forward, bloodless calm, and the hatchling turned toward him instead, moving back with a stiff, obedient trot. It pressed itself against Ghost's foreleg, as if seeking approval. Ghost lowered his head and touched the hatchling's skull with his muzzle. The shadow-clad figures backed away, retreating into the deeper streets. They did not flee in panic. They withdrew like men who would return with more. Jon's chest tightened. They'll keep coming, he murmured. Davos's face was pale. He said hoarsely. And after what I just saw, I don't blame them. Jon looked down at the hatchling pressed against Ghost, at the way it watched the retreating shadows with patient interest, like a pup memorizing prey. The city's lantern light flickered. Somewhere a bell rang. Volantis went on, indifferent. Jon pulled his hood up higher. We leave tonight, he said. Davos nodded, swallowing hard. He whispered. Before the whole bloody world decides it wants what you stole. They met the smuggler in a tavern that smelled of sour wine and old sweat. It was not in the rich quarter near the black walls, where masters drank spiced liquor and slaves served with downcast eyes. It was near the river, in the warren of narrow streets where the poor lived and died unnoticed. The sign above the door was a crooked fish painted on wood. Inside, smoke hung thick enough to chew. Davos chose a table in the back, near a wall where they could see the door. Jon sat with his back to the wood, hand resting near his sword. Ghost lay under the table, wrapped in canvas, still as a statue. The hatchling's eyes glinted from beneath the cloth, unblinking. Men glanced their way and looked away quickly. Something about them, wolf, cold, and the quiet presence of violence, made the tavern's usual predators lose appetite. The smuggler arrived late. She slid into the seat opposite Jon as if she had always been there. Her hair was black and braided tight. A scar ran from her jaw to her collarbone, pale against brown skin. Her hands were calloused. Her eyes were sharp and tired, the eyes of someone who had seen too many bargains turn into bodies. Talia Rowe, she said, naming herself as if it were a threat. Her common tongue was rough, but clear enough. Davos nodded. Davos Seaworth. Her gaze flicked to Jon. And you're the dead man, she said flatly. Jon did not deny it. Denial wasted breath. We need passage, he said. Talia Rowe's eyes slid downward, toward the canvas-wrapped bulk under the table. She did not ask directly. She did not need to. Her nostrils flared slightly, catching a scent. Cold smoke beneath salt and sweat. You've got something, she said softly. Davos's hand tightened on his cup. We've got coin. Talia Rowe laughed once, humorless. Coin is for fools, she said. I take coin too, but it's never what matters. Her gaze returned to Jon, pinning him. You want west. That's a long road from Volantis. Ships don't sail just because you ask. They sail because someone with power says they can. Jon leaned forward slightly. Then tell me who to pay. Talia Rowe's smile was thin. You don't pay those men, she said. You survive them. She nodded toward the door. There are eyes on you, not just the ones from your shadow city. Volantis watches anything strange. Priests, masters, the Triarcha's little knives. Her gaze dropped again. And that thing you carry is strange. Jon's jaw tightened. Can you get us out? I can, she said. But not on a nice ship with polite sails. Not on a captain who keeps his hands clean. She leaned back, eyes narrowing. There's a riverboat leaving tonight, heading down the Rhoyne to the sea. From there, a ship that runs contraband to Lys. From Lys, you can reach the narrow sea if you're lucky. Davos frowned. Lucky isn't a plan. Talia Rowe shrugged. Luck is the only plan that survives, she said. But you'll need something more than coin. Jon's gaze sharpened. What? Talia Rowe's eyes held his, unblinking. Protection, she said. My boat is watched. Men will ask questions. Men will come looking. Her voice dropped. "If the Shadowmen find you in Volantis, they won't just kill you. They'll take what you carry and leave your bodies as warnings." Jon's fingers curled on the table. "So you want us as guards?" Talia Rose's smile flickered. "No," she said. "I want what walks with you." Under the table ghost shifted, a slow roll of muscle. The hatchling's claws scraped faintly. Jon felt the tension in his own spine. Talia Rowe held up a hand, palm open. "Not to buy," she said quickly, reading his face. "Not to own. I'm not stupid. I don't want to be eaten." Her eyes gleamed in candlelight. "I want it near me. I want men to see it just enough to hesitate. Just enough to let my boat slip away." Jon's throat tightened. He did not like the thought of showing the hatchling to anyone. Every glimpse was an invitation, but every hidden thing could be cornered. Davos leaned in, voice low. "Jon, we can't flash it like a torch." Jon stared at the candle flame, watching it sway. He thought of the shadow-clad men in the red-lit alley. He thought of Cavo-Jean's fear. He thought of Makoro's reverent gaze. "They already know," Jon said quietly. "Hiding won't make them forget." Talia Rowe nodded once, satisfied. "Then we have a deal," she said. "You walk with me to the riverboat. You make men uneasy. And if anyone tries to stop us..." Her gaze slid to the canvas under the table. "You let your wolf decide what happens." Jon's mouth tightened. That was the truth of it, whether he liked it or not. Ghost was the hinge on which this strange new power swung. "All right," Jon said. "Tonight." Talia Rowe rose smoothly. "Be ready," she said, and slipped away into the smoke. Davos stared after her, then looked at Jon. "We're making enemies in every port," he said. Jon's eyes drifted to Ghost under the table. "We already had enemies," he replied. "Now we just have something they fear." The hatchling's eyes glinted in the darkness beneath the cloth, watching the tavern's shifting shadows with quiet interest, as if the world were a hunting ground and it was learning its map. Night on the Rhoyne was thick and humid, the air heavy with river stink and distant fires. The riverboat waited at a hidden dock, its hull low and broad, built for cargo and speed. Men moved quietly on deck, faces half hidden. Crates were stacked in rows, tarps thrown over them. A lantern was shaded so its light did not carry. Talia Rowe met them at the edge of the wharf. "Keep your heads down," she murmured. "Let them see what they want to see." Jon pulled Ghost's canvas cloak tighter. The direwolf moved like a silent ship of his own, steady and unhurried. The hatchling clung beneath the cloth, close to Ghost's chest, its breath cold against fur. They stepped onto the boat. The deck creaked softly. The river lapped against wood with a slow patience. Jon's senses were stretched tight, listening for footsteps, for voices, for the scrape of steel. A shout came from upstream. Torchlight flickered between buildings. Volantine guards approached. 6 men in leather and metal, helms catching torchlight, spears in hand. Their faces were hard, suspicious. The city's eyes had found the boat. Talia Rowe swore under her breath. She stepped forward, adopting the easy posture of a woman with nothing to hide. "Evening," she called, voice bright. "We're hauling fish and cloth. Nothing worth your trouble." The guard captain's eyes narrowed. "Triarch's decree," he barked. "No boats leave after nightfall without inspection." Talia Rowe smiled, practiced and false. "Inspection costs," she said, and held out a small pouch. The captain's gaze flicked to it, then back to her face. He snorted. "Not enough." Jon felt Ghost tense beneath the canvas. The hatchling shifted, claws flexing. Jon's heart hammered, but he kept his face still. The captain's gaze drifted, inevitably, toward the canvas-wrapped bulk beside Jon. "What's that?" he demanded. Talia Rowe's smile did not falter. "A beast," she said lightly. "A gift for a Lyseni master. He likes rare things." The captain stepped closer, spear tip lowering toward the canvas. "Uncover it." Jon's hand slid to Longclaw's hilt. Davos stiffened, jaw tight. Talia Rowe held up both hands. "No need," she said softly. It bites. The captain laughed. Everything bites when you're weak, he sneered, and jabbed the spear tip toward the canvas. Ghost moved, not fast, not in a lunge. He simply turned his head, canvas shifting, and revealed one red eye in the torchlight. The guard captain stopped as if struck. His laughter died in his throat. Ghost's eye held him, steady and unblinking. A faint thread of cold smoke slipped out from beneath the canvas, barely visible, curling like ink. The torch flame nearest flickered, shrinking. The men behind the captain murmured. One took a half-step back without realizing. The captain swallowed. He tried to recover, to bark another order, but the words caught. His gaze dropped, just for a heartbeat, to the shape beneath the canvas, to a small dark head nestled against the direwolf's throat, to eyes like black water reflecting torchlight. The hatchling blinked slowly. The captain's face went pale. He forced himself to spit on the deck, a weak gesture of defiance. Witchcraft, he rasped. Talia Rowe's voice was gentle, almost sympathetic. Not witchcraft, she said. Just something your mother warned you about when you were small enough to listen. The captain's spear trembled. He looked at his men. They looked back, uncertainty spreading like oil. Then the hatchling exhaled. Just a breath, no ribbon, no violence. A thin mist of cold rolled across the deck, frosting the spear tip. The metal whitened, then crackled as a hairline fracture ran along it. The captain jerked his spear back, eyes wide. Go, Talia Rowe whispered, and her tone held iron beneath silk. Before you bring worse luck on yourself. For a moment Jon thought the captain might call for more men out of wounded pride. Then the hatchling's black eyes fixed on him, and something ancient and cold seemed to look out through them. The captain stepped back. Let them go, he snapped to his men, voice hoarse. It's not worth it. They retreated, torches bobbing, faces tight with fear. The captain did not look back, as if afraid the creature might follow his gaze like a hook. As the guards disappeared into the night, Talia Rowe let out a long breath. She turned toward Jon, eyes bright. Your wolf is better than any bribe, she murmured. Jon's hand was still on his sword. He forced his fingers to loosen. We didn't come to terrify dock guards, he said. Talia Rowe's smile was thin. No, she replied. You came to terrify something much worse. The riverboat pushed off. Oars dipped. The Royns swallowed their wake without sound. Behind them, Volantis' torchlights dwindled like angry stars. Under the canvas, Ghost stood calm and steady, and the hatchling settled once more beneath his throat, as if the whole confrontation had been nothing more than a test of the pack's teeth. They changed ships twice before they dared turn north. From the riverboat, they slipped onto a contraband sloop near the mouth of the Rhoyne, hidden among reeds and fog. From that sloop, they boarded a larger merchant ship bound for the narrow sea, its captain bought with coin and fear and Talia Rowe's quiet reputation. Each transfer felt like a gamble with knives. Each new crew looked at Ghost with suspicion and at Jon with questions they tried not to ask. The hatchling grew with every day, its body lengthening, its wings broadening, its pale seams brightening at night like frost caught under skin. It still rode Ghost more often than it walked alone. When it did walk, it moved low and deliberate, head close to the deck, tail stiff, more wolf than lizard. It hunted rats in the hold with ruthless efficiency, snapping them up and crunching bones, then returning to Ghost's side as if reporting. Jon watched it and felt the world shifting beneath his feet, as if he had stepped onto a frozen lake and heard the ice begin to sing. On the third night out of Lys, the air turned colder. The sea darkened. Wind carried a bite that reminded Jon of home. The crew muttered about winter storms and cursed luck. Jon welcomed the cold, felt honest. He stood at the rail beside Davos, watching the moon's pale smear on black water. Ghost stood a step ahead, ears forward, nose lifting to taste the wind. The hatchling climbed onto Ghost's shoulders, claws finding purchase in fur, wings folded tight. Davos rubbed his bandaged arm absently. You think they'll stop following? He asked quietly, meaning the shadow-clad hunters. Jon's gaze stayed on the horizon. "No," he said. "Not until someone takes it or dies trying." Davos let out a long breath. "Then we'll have to be the ones who don't die." Jon's mouth tightened. "We've been trying that for years." Ghost's body tensed suddenly. His head lifted higher, nostrils flaring. Jon felt it through the bond. A spike of alertness, sharp and immediate. The direwolf was scenting something. Not land, not fish, not storm. Something colder. Jon's heartbeat quickened. He leaned forward, scanning the waves. For a moment he saw nothing but dark water rolling under moonlight. Then he felt it. The same faint pressure he had felt at Castle Black when Melisandre spoke of darkness east of the wall. A tightening in his chest, like a thread pulled taut. The hatchling stirred. Its pale seams brightened, glowing faintly. It lifted its head, nostrils flaring, and made a low sound, too deep for its size, a vibration that made Jon's teeth ache. Davos stiffened. "What is it?" he whispered. Jon did not answer, because his mind slid, unbidden, toward Ghost again. For a heartbeat he saw through the direwolf's eyes. The sea as a moving field of scent and sound, the ship a cluster of human smells, the wind a stream carrying something wrong, cold, dry like air in a tomb, a smell like old snow and dead leaves. Jon jerked back into himself, breath catching. "Something's near," he said hoarsely. Davos's face tightened. "Near?" he echoed. "There's nothing out there but water." Ghost growled, low and steady. The hatchling opened its mouth and exhaled. A low fog of black smoke rolled out, thick and slow, curling over the ship's rail and across the air above the waves. It did not fall like normal smoke. It drifted, clinging to the surface of the sea like a living thing. Sea spray rose with the wind and crystallized mid-air where it touched the black fog. Tiny white shards formed and fell like brittle snow. The crew noticed then. Men shouted, pointing. Someone dropped a bucket with a crash. A sailor made a frightened sign and backed away from the rail. Jon stared at the fog spreading outward and felt his skin crawl. The hatchling was not attacking. It was sensing, marking, responding to something in the air that Jon could not see. A shape moved beneath the water. Just a ripple, just a darker patch in the black. Then another. The crew shouted louder. Someone ran for a harpoon. Ghost's hackles rose. He planted his paws, bracing as if expecting impact. The hatchling clung tighter, eyes fixed on the water, seams glowing brighter. Jon's hand went to Longclaw. His breath came shallow. "Hold!" he snapped at the crew. Though they didn't listen, the shapes beneath the water vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. The waves rolled on, indifferent. The black fog thinned, dissipating. The crystallized spray melted as it fell. Slowly, Ghost's growl faded. The direwolf remained tense, but the spike of immediate threat eased. Davos let out a shaky breath. "What in all the hells was that?" he whispered. Jon stared into the dark water until his eyes burned. He thought of the others, cold things that moved in snow, not sea. He thought of the Shadowlands and their wrongness. He thought of the hatchling's cold flame frosting wood and burning it black. "I don't know," Jon admitted, voice low, "but it knows." The hatchling closed its mouth and pressed its head against Ghost's neck, as if satisfied that the unseen thing had been warned. Jon's chest tightened. He had brought a creature into the world that reacted to cold the way other dragons reacted to fire. And somewhere ahead, beyond sea and wind and winter, the wall waited. So did the dead.